Alrighty folks, we're doing free response question number 3 here, and it says consider this curve y squared equals 2 plus xy. And it shows that dy dx equals y over 2 y minus x, and we have to use what type of differentiation here? What type do we have to use? It is implicit differentiation. Why implicit? Because y cannot be solved for. Okay, so we're going to do part A on a separate sheet of paper so it's clear. So for part A, I'm going to take my equation here. I'm going to get, so I'm going to apply d dx. So the first thing you need to do is take the derivative with respect to x of y squared equals 2 plus xy. And we distribute the derivative to each quantity, and we get d dx of y squared equals d dx of 2 plus d dx of xy. You don't have to do this, you can skip this step at this stage, but I'm just writing it out. The derivative of y squared is 2y times d dx of what? The inside function is y, and that's just what? It's 2y times dy dx, or what? We called it y prime, right? That's dy dx, but we like to call it y prime because it's a little easier to look at. Equals the derivative of a constant is what? 0 plus this here. Which rule do we have to use here? What rule is that? We have to use the product rule, right? So it's going to be the derivative of the first, which is 1 times the second, plus derivative of the second, which is y prime times the first. And we bring this down, so this is going to be 0 plus y prime x. It's going to finally bring it down here. We don't need the 0, so it's just y plus y prime x. Let's isolate our y primes. I'm going to move this one to the other side. And these cancel, so I end up with 2y, y prime minus y prime x equals y. And now, factor out y prime, and we get 2y minus x equals y. And you can see we're almost done. Now we divide by what is next to y prime, and we get y prime equals y over 2y minus x, which is what we wanted. Okay. The nice thing is I gave you the answer here. So we got part A, that's done. Part B says find all points on the curve where the line tangent is a keyword, has a slope of 1/2, right? So what does that mean? So a tangent line means like the same slope. So let's write that down. And then has a slope of what? 1/2. So basically we want this to have a slope of 1/2, and we want the point xy. So basically what B is asking is saying find x and y so that this equation here has a slope of what? 1/2, right? Okay, cool. I can do that. Well, we know slope means what? What does slope mean? It means the derivative, right? The derivative of what? Of this one. And you should know that we already have it. In fact, it's given. It's calculated already. So even if you didn't know how to do part A, it doesn't stop you from doing part B. So we want this slope here, which is y over 2y minus x, to be equal to what? 1/2. Okay? And now, basically, this is what this boils down to here. So from here, we could just solve this here. And if you notice, this tells us some pieces of information. We can cross multiply over an equal sign here. And that should give us here 2y is equal to y minus x. And we solve this one out here. Let's subtract 2y from both sides. And you get something interesting. These cancel. And you end up with negative x is 0. So thus x is 0. So that's one value. So how do I find y? How do you think we should find y? What do you think we should do? That's right. We're going to plug it back into the original. So we know y squared equals 2 plus xy. Let's plug this in here. So we get y squared equals 2. Because that was 0, right, times y. And that's, and that's 0. So you just send the y squared is 2, so y equals plus or minus the square root of 2. So now, if you notice, the problem says find all points, right? You need to find all points. So because this one has 2 values here. So one of the points was when you plugged in 0, you got a positive root 2, and the other point was you plugged in 0, you also had a negative square root of 2. So these are these points here that satisfy that equation. So we're going to move on to part C now. I'm going to new to a separate sheet of paper. Part C says, show that there are no points. So no points, x, y. So again, I'm going to need to try and find them to show that there are none. On the curve where the line tangent, that means the same slope to the curve is what? Horizontal. So this horizontal means something here. We know line tangent means the same slope. What does it mean if your slope is horizontal? What does that mean? And hopefully you found that it means that you have undefined slope. And undefined slope means that you have 0 at the bottom. So basically, you want to show that this function here, this function has undefined, show that there are no values where this function has undefined slope. Right? So this function has undefined slope nowhere. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to pretend that it's true, and then we're going to solve it out. So we first need to find the slope. Well, we know the slope. Again, it's given. So I'm going to start out with that equation. Y over 2, y minus x. And we're going to set it equal to what? Well, what will we set it equal to? And it's going to be blah, blah. Doesn't matter, over 0. Why? Because you can't divide by 0. So what does this mean here? So what this expression says that y would be some number, who cares, right? This is insignificant. But the bottom here is what? Is equal to 0. So, because we would equate the tops and the bottoms, right? So what does this mean here? So this would imply that 2y minus x, that would have to be 0, right? Because this whole bottom piece would be 0. So if we solve this, and we add x here, this would mean that 2y equals x, right? Or x is 2y. So how does this help us? Well, we want to show that this is somehow a contradiction. Well, to do so, I'm going to go ahead and plug this where? I'm going to plug it back into the original one here and see what we get. Okay? So my equation is y squared equals 2 plus xy. I'm going to plug this in for x here. So y squared equals 2 plus 2y times y here. And then y squared equals 2 plus 2y squared. And now we're going to solve this here, or attempt to at least. I'm going to subtract 2y squared, and hopefully an alarm is going off in your head. What's the problem with this now, at this stage? What's the problem? Anyone know? Can you see it now? If I divide by -1, we have here what? We have the square root of a negative, and this is impossible, right? So this gives an imaginary answer. So whenever it asks you to say something can't be true, pretend that it is true, and then what you will get is a contradiction. So this gives an imaginary answer. Thus, there cannot be a point xy such that the line tangent has horizontal slope. Okay? Alright, this would be the answer here. And we definitely showed that. And they didn't even ask us to explain it. So if you wanted to, you could have gone over here. If you didn't want to write this explanation, you could have just said, alternately, you could have said contradiction. Thus, and you would just say, maybe a shorter version, thus you can't have the horizontal slope. Anyway, and that's pretty much it here. Please try question number 4. I'll try and put the answers to that one on the website as well.